Hello, I'm Rich Malloy, and I'm an instructor in the adult high school program, the pre-college division at Gateway Technical College. And I'm very pleased to put this video together and go over the Safe School Audit and take a look here. Very quickly, to go over our demographics, and I've learned I've got to speak quickly. We're in southeastern Wisconsin. We're in the corridor between Milwaukee and Chicago. I teach in Racine, Wisconsin, and also the Elkhorn, Wisconsin campus. We are part of the Wisconsin Technical College system. We also have campuses in Kenosha as well as Burlington and some off-site areas, facilities for transportation and for first responders. I've learned that I need to speak quickly. I'm going to limit myself to the Racine and Elkhorn campuses as I speak more specifically about our audit here. I have some demographics. Our average age is 28. We're 35% minority, 58% non-minority. Our full-time enrollment is calculated to 4,300. And I've put our funding sources right here, coming from property taxes, from student fees, about 48% from state aid. And I have a graphic that delineates that. I have a graphic that talks about the fact that Racine has had the highest unemployment in the state of Wisconsin for the last 23 consecutive years. And from the state, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this documents that. As an urban population center of 70,000, it suffers from, Racine suffers from a lot of the urban issues cities have faced, and this indicates our crime is higher than the state and higher than the U.S. average. If I go to Elkhorn, which is 40 miles to the west, it's a much more agricultural workplace. Tourism is a big part of our employers' makeup. We also have, where Elkhorn happens to be the largest industrial park in Walworth County, so we have manufacturing to offer there, and this indicates our unemployment rates, which are pretty indicative of the state of Wisconsin. Here's our enrollment. We don't have a lot of full-time students, as we'll talk about in the next slide. So 7,500 is, as of 2016, what our state has figured our attendance to be. Unlike a K-12 institution, we're dealing with working adults, so we don't have the concerns that you might have with a K-5 population or something like that. I think that has a little bit to do with what we have in our inspection, as does the fact that when we don't have that many full-time students, so a lot of our students are here part-time. Enrollment is calculated through headcount and full-time enrollment. We're also in the correctional facilities, and we have some contracts with high schools, at-risk students from our neighboring school districts and our community partners. That's why enrollment is kind of difficult to compute. So if I look at our campuses, here is our Lincoln building, which is where the administrative offices are on the Racine campus. It's on the lakefront. You can kind of see it poking around the trees. This happens to be a park. This happens to be the only statue of Mary Todd Lincoln in America. I'll mention that again later. I've just lost my I in IMET. Integrated Mechanical Engineering Technology Center is also our Foxconn Valley site. Foxconn is moving its North American headquarters to Racine County. That's a huge grab for us. I'll explain that. It also affects our budgeting and our planning. We are partnered in this particular facility with the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, as well as the county and state workforce development people. Why does that matter? Because in order to accommodate a large project like Foxconn, our faculty members agreed to move their offices back to the Racine campus, about 10 miles to the east. I'll explain the impact of that. This is our Elkhorn campus. That was our student center. I may come back to that shot. This was a pole barn probably 6 years ago, the south building on the right. Obviously, we've done some renovations here to both. Added what you're looking at here in the north building on the closest end is our library. That was not located there, so that's an addition. Now, our inspection summary, this is from our Racine campus. This is an example of a wide open entrance onto our parking lot. It's facing the lake. It's very well lit. Our fire emergency responder access to water is right there. It obviously is well secured. You can't see the cameras that are in here, but I wanted to, and the signage I can show. There we go. Actually, you can't see a camera near the signage, pardon me. Those are all things I wanted to mention, because as I talked to our Vice President of Facilities and Security, we operate, in addition to the standards that he was familiar with, that this course has talked about, a philosophy of crime prevention through environmental design. I see a lot of overlap in the inspection, but very briefly, breaking it down to four main ideas. Natural surveillance makes visibility a top priority. We eliminate darkness and corners and things of that sort. Natural access control limits and restricts access to targets. We reinforce our boundaries, and maintenance comes under this umbrella as well as a crime prevention goal, reflecting the care of students, kind of like community policing. If you see something, say something. Our architect is Partners in Design, a firm that we've used for some time. This is a student center. It's an evening shot on our Racine campus. It overlooks a bluff, overlooking the lake, I should say. It's on a bluff overlooking the lake. You'll notice that it's bright. It's very well lit. It's very welcoming. So we're into standard 3 and 4 when we talk about personalized learning space. And you'll also notice it's not marked up, and it's clean, and it has remained so. When I started at Gateway, our provost described this space as resembling a church basement. Environmental conditions. I mentioned our Vice President of Facilities and Security, who has experience in hazardous materials, also on the bomb squad, also some management experience. He's a young man who just returned from a stint in Afghanistan. We get awards for working with students who are veterans. He oversees campus directors of facilities on the campuses. Underneath those directors would be our engineers, our specialists, plumbers, HVAC, carpenters, industrial mechanics. I should probably include our greenskeeper with a background in horticulture. We have custodians, and we have cleaners. The opportunity to train and work up from to a different station is provided and encouraged, as is the Gateway to Leadership program that we offer. Campus security and information technicians work in concert with the facilities staff, meaning that when somebody puts a ticket in, it is immediately read with a number of sets of eyes regarding facilities, regarding our information technology. Was a media problem in the classroom that would impact learning. Also, student conduct. I look at this as standard 2A, collaboration, and getting environment of shared management. I also look at standard 2E, where we monitor for student progress. We don't really divorce the idea of student progress from our facilities and from the environment that the students are learning in. So our data collection comes from data logs, which is automated software from vendors like Train and Otis Elevator, for instance, that immediately cue the specialists for a problem, something out of the ordinary in terms of power or water usage in an area. Our ticket system uses user feedback. Students can also put a ticket in. Media technology, they're monitored immediately based on urgency. We get an astonishingly quick response. Deferred maintenance. I really had to look, but the impact of this Mary Todd Lincoln statue is an interesting thing. Just outside the shot here is a rather large LED sign put in about 2003, and I remember that was quite a bit of controversy We have a number of Victorian homes and kind of an old town section of Racine. We need to be good community partners. I know I'm thinking about Standard 4 and 4D in particular. As I said, they're sitting in a park. That makes renovation of the Lincoln Building extremely difficult to impossible. The Lincoln Building was built as the University of Wisconsin-Racine in the early 60s. It must have been quite something then. But there's very little we can do with a concrete structure short of taking it down. And as I said, it's historic on the register. It is historic given the architect at the time. Also the fact that you have a park that you'd have to go through. It is oftentimes a spot that isn't used very much, the third floor in particular. However, those faculty members from IMET have relocated there. The Foxconn project is an 11 million square foot facility. If you happen to have a smartphone, Foxconn, I believe, would be the folks making the screen for that, or the screen on flat screen TVs. It's an enormously and very politically powerful change in the landscape in Racine County. 11 million square feet gets measured in terms of football stadiums. 13,000 jobs is enormous. It has changed our priorities for funding immediate projects very, very quickly. Again, handing office space to our Foxconn partners and to others to make this go. We are to be the ground zero to provide the workers those 13,000 jobs. We need to provide the background. I would note, this is from our technical building in the Racine campus, that we have a need for storage space. I don't know that I find inadequate funding. I put in here, our projects are capped at $1.5 million by the state. That amount can be dispersed between projects for emergencies, so we can take some off and put it where it needs to go. We've done a great job of reaching out to the community. Our RPM Manufacturing Center opened about 3 years ago in Elkhorn. It's sponsored by local employers to the Elkhorn area. The Milwaukee Journal talks about our Foxconn site. You'll notice somewhere in the darkness, the Student Life Center is sponsored by S.E. Johnson Wax, a Racine employer. So we've reached out and done well. And we've repurposed our facilities. Evinrude had a grand opening for a facility to train technicians. I don't know about inadequate staff training. I thought about it. We've all been trained, required to know how to use the defibrillators. You'll notice that the schematics are up everywhere. We have classroom directions on how to respond to everything from an active shooter to explosives. Does the staff know this particular plan? I gotta say, I'm not sure we do. The crime prevention through environmental design probably ought to be something we discuss at an in-service. Core practices, I think if this were a K-12 setting, I'd worry about the steps that go from the lake to the parking lot, I should say, up to our lake building. The railing is only on one side. It has been improved over the years. It is extremely well lit. It was not always. And there is a track, a walking track at the top. That said, I'm not sure about the security. I think we've done a great job. I'm talking quickly as I look at my timer. We do a great job, I think, in working with the public. I talked about the signage. We're partners. The marketing department is awfully concerned about branding. And when it comes to facilities and renovations, that's a big deal. And we all do climate surveys, students and staff. We have opened a 4-star restaurant, of which there was none, in Racine for our culinary programs. Student and staff morale, again, I showed the student center. We have, for the last 7 years, been in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel's top workplaces. And that comes from employee surveys as well. It has to do with our setting and what I really think has been improved service. And I